Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have so many of you here, some familiar names, other new names as well. Look, today we are going to talk about how B2B organizations can turn customer feedback into better service, stronger relationships, better decisions around retention and growth of the organization. This is not necessarily a session about how to run a survey for the sake of it. We'll be talking not only about collecting data, but also how you can embed the insights into the organization. We want to move just beyond tracking a score. So hopefully we'll be able to bring to you a practical focus on how we capture useful customer insights, connected back to the right teams, and make sure that organization takes action. We have a broad group of people joining today across manufacturing business, service, utilities, finance, professional service, and I know you all operate in very different environments in the delivery. You deliver different solutions to your customers and clients, but there are some common challenges that B2B organizations typically face when implementing customer experience programs, from starting complex relationships, multiple stakeholders, different delivery expectations. So hopefully today we'll share with you some ideas on how you can improve or set up a customer experience program and in the context of B2B broadly. And that's basically the lenses we'll take on today. I am joined by Daniel. Maybe I'll start saying my name is Antonia Calo. For those that haven't met me before, I am the Managing Director of ActXM, and I'm joined by Daniel. Daniel, if you want to quickly say hello and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel McKevity. I'm the National Service Manager for Alsco Uniforms here in Australia. Based on, I guess, the success of one of our recent customer service surveys and initiatives, Antonia's asked me to join you today and speak a bit about it. So I'm looking forward to discussing with you guys.
That's great. Thank you, Daniel, for making the time. I know that a lot of our customers and people that we talk to are really always very keen to hear about how other organizations are implementing their customer experience programs. So very grateful that you are here. We're going to give enough space for Daniel to share his story and his experience, but I will also complement today's session with a very simple framework to help you think about B2B customer listening. I know that Alsco has made big improvements in the way they have managed their customer experience program and how they're getting value out of it. So hopefully we'll tie up Daniel's story and the experience back to a simple framework that you can then take into your organization. So that's a little bit what we're going to cover today. So we'll focus kind of in 4 areas. First of all, quick reminder about why B2B customer experience is different, why feedback alone is not enough. So I have a couple of slides that touch on these very first 2 topics. And then we'll move on to have a little bit of a chat with Daniel, and he will share with us the Alsco uniform story. And how customer feedback became more useful across the business. And then finally, I'll wrap it up with a practical model for turning feedback into action. We should take about 45 minutes to an hour. We'll see how we go. We can always follow up if you have questions at the end, but that's basically the plan for today. All right, so what is different in B2B? So B2B CX is different ultimately because the relationships are more complex than traditional consumer relationships, consumer to business relationships. So we are often rarely dealing just with one person, one decision maker, or the journeys are not necessarily simple. We have multiple stakeholders involved, from sponsors, users, procurement teams, service teams, sometimes partners, and each group really has a different or value experience in a different way. But it's not only just the number of stakeholders. B2B relationships also take longer, right? So the experience is built over time across projects, across different service interactions, and the counter conversations and renewals obviously are very important on how the relationships and the experience are formed when dealing with the B2B environments. You will have more service touch points. A customer may experience may be shaped by account management, delivery, support, operations, frontline teams, and leadership interactions. So there is not necessarily just one point, one contact, and that forms the experience. And that really creates, I guess, the complexity that we see when it comes to setting up customer experience programs. So what does this mean? Like I usually ask my clients to really focus on the basics. So before we start talking about connecting insights, I think it's worth being realistic and potentially ask some questions around: are we ticking and delivering against the basics? And to me, the basics are, and Daniel's going to explore a little bit more around this, like, do we have the right customer contacts in the first place? Are we hearing from enough people in the accounts? Are we capturing service feedback consistently, just not on an ad hoc basis? And ultimately, do frontline teams have a way of sharing what they are hearing as well? So we want to hear from customers, but there is a really big pool of intel about that customer experience within your frontline teams that is worth considering. So the starting point does not need to be complex, and often the first step is to create a useful source of feedback that can give the business better visibility than it has today. And then over time, you can build towards a more connected view of the customer experience. So really important to start with the basics. And I think a good test in terms of whether or not your customer listening program is delivering action and value is thinking around whether or not the customer feedback is helping teams make a better decisions. Like really try to move away from just having annual survey, tick in the box, is a report, beautiful PowerPoint presentation, and doesn't really deliver change to the organization. And I think that's a really strong focus when we talk to our customers, to really focus around driving better decision makers, driving action. So I often like to ask some questions in terms of, can it tell us, does our program tell us which customers need a follow-up this week or these months, or does customers need a follow-up in general? Can the program show which service issue is creating repeated friction? What actions do we need to take? How can we engage internal teams to act on feedback? Can we give the senior leaders evidence to invest in fixing the issues? So ultimately, we do want this customer experience program to lead to actions, and I think it's really important when we go around and setting it up to have that top of mind. And this is where I want to bring in Daniel into the conversation. So because Alsco Uniform is a really good example of how they have moved from limited visibility in terms of feedback to now being able to the feedback supporting action and supporting business decisions. So Daniel, I would really like to, I guess, introduce your story, and I think it might be worth for you to maybe just share with everyone, give us a picture of how Alsco Uniforms, what do you do as an organization, as a business, who do you serve, how the relationship work, just to give a bit of context.
Yeah, of course. So Alsco Uniforms, our customer environment is really built around long-term partnerships with businesses that rely on us to provide essential products and services. So these things include uniforms, linen, mats, hygiene, first aid, washroom solutions, really anything of that sort. Hopefully you guys have heard of us. Quite a few of our trucks are around, so I'm sure you would have seen them. But our business, while at its core, it's defined, I guess, as a commercial laundry. It's a little bit more than that. We're mainly a customer service logistics business who provides a managed rental service, and we really rely on tenure. So we want long-term customers. We don't want, short-term, week to week. We want year, 2 year, 3 years. Some of our customers have even been with us for 20 plus years. So that's the kind of customer environment we're trying to create, is one built on tenure. We service businesses across many industries, so healthcare, hospitality, manufacturing. I think I saw the list today. I think we might even service a couple of the people on the list of attendees today. which is good because it means you're familiar with us. Um, and I guess the reason feedback matters so much to us and why this project was so important is probably the same for many of the people actually on the call today. We're no different from any other business in that way. So, feedback helps us understand how well we're meeting customer expectations, where we can improve, valuable insights into our customer experience. It highlights what we do well, opportunities we can improve, even look to diverse our product range, everything like that. So the big part of this for us was kind of seeing where we'd gone wrong in the past and developing a really well-rounded customer experience program to, I guess,
Yeah.
turn some of the poor results into better results
Yeah.
this time around.
And then yeah, I'm aware of some of the challenges that you had in your program originally, and those being like the response rate, some of the data quality issues. Can you talk us a little bit more about that? Like when you're going to customers, how reliable the data was.
Yeah. So I guess one of the big things we wanted to solve was in the past we had quite a poor response rate from our annual surveys, and we do a couple of other surveys throughout the year, but the overall response rate was pretty low. And we wanted to move the business away from, making assumptions and really hear from a much broader, more diverse range of our customers, what was going on. Because if we took I think it was 1.5, 2% was where we were sitting. It wasn't, while we still got results from that and we still found items we could action from it, it wasn't the pool of data we were hoping for. So we really didn't get quite a broader range of what our customers, thought of us. Um, so what we did was we decided we kind of needed to pivot from what we'd done in the past and attack it from a different angle. As Antonio said, what we knew was our data was poor, our response rate was well below what we wanted, and we knew that our current approach really lacked results. So
Yeah.
if we wanted a better outcome, we needed a different approach. Really,
Yeah.
that's what we were looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of takes us to the next item here, which is talk us about some of these practical changes that you actually implemented, and we'll talk a little about the results in a while. But what changes did you implement to be able to address, for example, the response rate? I know a lot of the people on the call today will be battling with the same problem. Response rates are low. People are less completing less surveys. And I really like some of the things that we are able to implement and actually resulted in higher response rates. So let's talk about that.
Um, I think the easiest way to explain what changes we made was probably to just give a really high level run through of what we actually did. Um, Otherwise, if you try and pick apart bits of it, it's kind of like no part was more successful than the other. It was kind of the whole project that made it the success, right? Um, so what we thought was we knew earlier that we knew the current approach didn't work, that the quality of our data, so actually our data for emails and phone numbers and stuff, wasn't going to get us there. So what we had to do is we had to develop a project plan, a new survey, and it involved approaching it from pretty much an entirely fresh plane, right?
Mm,
So what we did was we decided we would send out notification emails to our customer base. So we did this 1 month and 2 weeks before we actually sent our survey. From those email distributions, with the help of Qualtrics, we actually received bounce back reports and were able to have that poor data fixed before we actually sent out our real survey. So looking
mm,
at what data was poor, we could send that around the business and fix it before we actually sent out the proper one. We weren't able to fix it all. We're still fixing a lot of it, but a sizable amount of data cleansing took place. And that ensured when we actually sent out our proper survey that it landed at the correct emails and the correct people.
mm,
We also have account managers within our business who manage a portfolio of accounts. So we had them reach out directly to their portfolios, letting them know about the survey, letting them know that it was coming, that we'd appreciate their help. To further push that, we held internal competitions to see which branches get the most results, the best results, and we supported that with some internal campaigns and internal prizes. So it really helped us get buy-in throughout the whole group. In addition to that, we also had our delivery people who actually deliver the items themselves, taking out QR codes so they could get customers directly to scan and fill out the survey on delivery. Again, this meant that we sort of hit our customer base across three tiers. So we got management level or account level, we got then like the account managers and the contacts, and then we got also the delivery level as well. So it allowed us to see throughout the business through a range of people within other businesses how we were I guess, performing at each level, which was fantastic.
Mm.
We also redesigned the email distribution, so it was much shorter and quicker to read. We know that when people are reading emails, particularly for surveys, they don't want to read a lot. They just want, here's the reason, can you do it, sort of thing. So we took that into account, as well as attaching incentives in the email. So we said you can either go in the competition to win a voucher for yourself, or we will donate to a charity of your choice, which helped us get additional buy-in. And then also part of the design itself, thanks to the help of the team at Qualtrics, was we put the first survey question embedded in the email. So even if they sort of just answered that question, that gave us partial information. So they didn't have to kind of click go in. It was very, very quick for the respondent as well. Um, and then I guess there was quite a few levels. So another component was we added in a question within our survey, which was something we didn't do before, was if customers wanted a direct call from senior management within the business. So that was, a member from head office or one of the general managers of the business, so that they could actually have a direct connection to someone senior and actually have a discussion. And then as the survey went out, we sent reminders to the customers about filling it out each week. This would push it to the top of the inbox, as well. So it was
So
quite a lot of different things that meant
yeah.
we were not just sending a survey, but we embedded it through our entire business from senior management down to our delivery people, and we attacked it from about 4 or 5 different angles, which means we got the best range of feedback.
Yeah, that's great. And often that's what we see with organizations that want to improve the response rate. Is not the change in the subject line or just one little piece. Is the whole a whole list of activities that actually drive
Yeah,
a better response rate.
yeah,
I love how you mentioned the pre-communication and how you use that pre-communication in two ways. One, to let them know that the survey is coming,
mhm,
and then second, to also help you clean up the data. And then when the survey went out, was a lot more target
yeah,
data. So that's a really good activity and outcome. Engaging with your internal teams around that incentive. Can I ask, and feel free to answer or not? Actually, I should have checked this with you before. What was the incentive that you gave to your account teams? Because I think people on the call on the webinar will be curious about that.
so we have a number of branches around the country, which anyway they range from anywhere from 50 to 80 people. But what I said was that whoever got the most survey results, that I would come to the branch and I would buy lunch for the entire branch.
Okay.
So it was good because then we got our production teams involved, we got our service teams involved, we got manager, pretty much everybody got involved. And eventually when we went out, I think the branch that won had about 65, 70 people, and we got a massive barbecue. We got people to come in and cook and do all these things for them, and they absolutely loved it. So
Yeah,
it
that's
was a really
great.
good result. Yeah,
Yeah, it's also a way of bringing teams together around customer
yeah,
experience and bring the importance of customer experience program back to the organization.
absolutely.
And then the other activity that I think is really important that you did and has a good impact in terms of the engagement from customers is the call out. The giving your customers the option to have a call from one of your managers, and you end up having like 300 of your clients saying that
Yeah,
they want a call from the leadership team.
correct. Yeah, there's about I think between 300 and 400 customers
Yeah,
asked for a callback, which was great. It was actually one of my favorite features.
yeah.
It was, yeah. So what that meant, we got a callback from either myself or similar level at head office,
Mm-hmm.
or we got from one of the general managers of our branches. And it was really good because when we ended up doing out these callback, we sort of divided them amongst ourselves. We got a big message came in 2 parts. So the first part was that a lot of the callbacks are actually requests from really happy customers, which was very
Yeah.
nice. They just wanted to say thank you or shout out their particular delivery person, which was great because then we could pass that feedback on to them. And then the second part was the one where we did receive negative feedback and wanted a phone call. We found out after discussion that probably 90% of the problems were just quite simple, but they came down to simple communication errors. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like there was this huge overarching thing where our customers are unhappy with us. It was just communication had broken down and it just hadn't been repaired. So once we could have those discussions with them, pass that on to the branch and help solve them, those customers ended up becoming happy customers for the
Mm.
most part. So it was really,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. How did the leaders and the team took that did this callback took on the feedback? How do you think that they helped them, I guess, get more engaged around the customer experience overall?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there was a pretty clear direction that we wanted more feedback from myself and the other members of the senior management. So it wasn't about getting their buy-in necessarily, but because they were already bought in. But it was great because by answering the phone and having that connection to them, they were able to understand, I guess, some of the problems that our people in our branches are facing and able to kind of talk through and solve them. So, yeah, it was a really good feature. And
Mm-hmm.
feedback even from that further was that customers loved sort of answering or speaking to the phone, and they found out it was actually the general manager of Australia who was talking to them.
Yeah.
So something like that was actually quite nice.
Yeah. So it has the impact of engaging and bringing the voice of customer to the day-to-day business and make it more real ultimately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love the results that you've seen on your program. Like we all love metrics. I try to not focus too much on metrics, but at the end of the day, the metrics do allow us to see the impact of the initiatives that the initiatives are having on the organization. And I think it's very clear the changes you have implemented have had an impact on both the response rates. You have increased the response rate from 2 to 9%. But also your NPS has significantly improved, and this is basically over the past 4 years. So the baseline being a minus 16 in 2022 to a positive 44 in 2025, right? So
Yes, correct.
last year. So that's basically three years. And these outcomes are really strong, like this improvement on the response rate, the NPS, and feedback becoming part of the planning. When you look back, what do you think has mattered the most in terms of the business, for the business?
Um, I guess what has mattered the most would be probably this year. So we've always been chasing a higher response rate, because we know, as I'm sure a lot of the people on the call today know, that response rate's very difficult. People see emails, they don't generally want to respond. All the ones that do respond are the ones that are usually just livid for some reason that they want to, and so that doesn't necessarily give you the most well-rounded result. So for us, the result that mattered the most was, yes, again, looking at our NPS, we were over the moon happy with that, right? It's great to see that our customers and some of the initiatives we put in over the last 2 to 3 years are really starting to have an impact. But for us, the response rate is really the big win for us. That's really what we were happy about.
Yeah, which is so I like that because it's more about collecting the feedback, and once you have that solid feedback, you start implementing the initiatives, and then the
Absolutely.
NPS will follow, right? Like
Yeah.
by default, you're right, targeting the right improvement areas because you
Yeah.
have strong feedback, then your NPS will follow. And perhaps maybe this is something to that we put back to the audience today. Instead of thinking about NPS, if you have a low response rate, think about how you can improve your response rate in the first place before you moving to having NPS targets.
Mm.
Then does the Oscar uniform has NPS as a target at the leadership or frontline team levels?
Do we have a specific NPS at level?
Yeah, targets like the
Um,
business you aiming for a target.
well, I know if you look at the range like 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, 60 to, well, I think above 80 is world class.
Mm-hmm.
Above 40 is great, and above 60 is, I forget, is like amazing or something. Sorry, I forget the exact wording. Um, we obviously we want to get up to that next tier because that next tier again shows that we're in that great or world class section, but we
Mm-hmm.
understand that that's a fair way away in terms of jumping up again. But we just like to keep seeing an improvement is really so the trend is the most important thing for us.
Mm-hmm.
While we would obviously, and who wouldn't want to be at 80, 90, right? And the likes of, I forget who's up there, but I think like Amazon or something might be up
Yeah.
there. The trend for us is the important thing. So we just want to know that year to year we're improving, that year to year, the things that we're implementing and the things that we're doing are being, I guess, impactful for our customers. Because at the end of the day, that's really the big win for us, right? We'd love to be as high as possible, but we just want to make sure that we are improving year to year. And
Mm-hmm.
if there are pain points for our customers, that we are, addressing those through some of our national initiatives and some of our business initiatives. So that's the
Yeah.
big win for us.
Yeah, no, that's great. So that benchmark or improvement is less about a particular score, but around moving up, right? That's the
Correct.
pace
Yeah.
that the initiatives and the organization is
Correct. Yes.
comfortable with. Um,
Absolutely.
I really love the what you've been doing with the Alski Uniform Customer Experience Feedback Program. So well done.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to share, I guess, with the group today? And then I'll move on to the framework, and we might come back a little bit later today with Q&A.
Um, I guess if I was going to add anything before we left, I'd just say the best way to address this, in my opinion, if you really want to move the needle on response rates or NPS or anything like that, is kind of go into it treating it like it's like a project in itself. So looking at all the touch points, looking at all the avenues which you can connect with your customers, understanding the roadblocks like your data. If your data is poor, what can you do to get around that? And that can be, like I said, using your account managers or something to go directly to the customer. Um, so yeah, I'd say don't just kind of be like, we're going to send out a survey and see what comes back. Treat it with a bit more attention and treat it like an actual project and try get rid of the roadblocks, try overcome things and then deliver it and then kind of action it, right? That's what I would say. That's how we got the best results at least.
Yeah. Well, what is the next project that you have in addition, obviously, to the survey and the feedback? What are, like, from a servicing perspective and improving customer experience? What is your next focus?
There's a couple things. I think a few of them I have to keep quiet at this stage still about
Okay.
just because they're very early. But one of the big things, which is off the back of this, is going to be a huge project around data cleansing. And I know, again, that's probably something everybody has to deal with. But off the back of that data cleansing, we have a lot of very exciting things coming up. But I'm just at this point not really allowed
Yeah.
to give too much. But it's going to be very good for the company and for the industry.
Great. So focus on enhancing the data, and then all the other things in terms of more insights, better customer follow-up, better
Yeah,
customer service will come off the back
ex-
of that.
exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then we start getting into the AI world, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, that is exactly what's going on. Correct.
we're not going to touch on AI, by the way, today.
Don't have enough time for that.
But it is a question we get often is how can we better use AI? Well, the first place is how can you actually clean up your data, your knowledge base before you start actually
That's
considering AI.
that's pretty much it. Before you're going to consider connecting any sort of AI into your business, you got to think what information are you giving that AI system,
Yeah,
right? So if
that's
your
right.
data isn't clean and your information isn't correct, you shouldn't be feeding that into anything. You need to really, really cleanse the data and fix that before you move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Daniel. I think we'll move on to the boring part where Antonio is going to talk through some slides. But I think it's important. I work well with frameworks, and I like to keep this framework simple. So I'll walk you through a few things that I have seen working really well when it comes to organizations implementing customer experience programs, but also getting value and driving action. So hopefully this is something that will resonate with you, and you can take a couple of ideas back to your organization. So this model is kind of very simple by itself. You need to listen, and ideally listen broadly. Connect the feedback right to back to the decisions, and really act where it matters. So the point is less about just feedback for the sake of feedback, but as you mentioned, creating, I guess, a project, right? Treat these beyond just a survey and create a system of action within the organization. And I think in B2B, something that I think often gets dismissed is you need to listen broadly. I love, Daniel, how you pointed out through your revised program, how you were able to connect with the decision makers, the delivery team at your customer end, and getting that feedback. And I think that's really critical, that you don't have just one person at your customer end completing the feedback, but you listen broadly across the different roles.
Yeah.
Something that is really valuable often is also listening to your internal teams. They have that, especially the frontline teams, they have that day-to-day experience. They understand the customer pain points. and just having a bit of a structured way of listening to your internal teams on how they perceive the customer experience can actually enhance quite a bit that feedback and understanding of the service and the experience you're delivering to your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other element around listening broadly, I like to think around the signal types that we can capture as part of the listening program. The first one being the relationship health, and this typically is your annual relationship survey, or if you are just starting, this will be your baseline. Like if you are starting your customer experience program, have a relationship survey. But ultimately, it is about understanding whether or not your customers trust you, they are confident in the relationship, how likely they are to continue working with you, but also understanding the service and product drivers that influence these core metrics around trust, NPS, and likelihood to continue doing business. So it's a really good place to ask. The relationship survey is also a really good place to ask about emerging needs, future priorities for customers, and where customers see value. The second element is around the service experience, and because especially in B2B business, your service delivery, and by service here I mean it can be your customers buy a product and is your placing an order, your delivery, or actually the service itself that you're offering to your customers. So I took service experience quite broadly here, but ultimately it's about understanding what is causing friction, where are issues being repeated, which customers potentially need that follow-up. This may come from transactional surveys, project-related feedback surveys that you have, but also service interactions, emails, complaints, any other operational data where you may have these signals coming through, and you shouldn't be just limited to asking feedback based on a survey. And the final third signal that I think is really important on B2B is what about the future opportunities. So this is ultimately about understanding what customers are asking next, where there may be a value that is not currently being met, specific renewal risk, or even growth potential. So I like to include and encourage you, if you have a win and loss program in your organization, or even account reviews or growth conversations that may be logged in the CRM system. There are tools nowadays that allows you to analyze all of these kind of unstructured data and allows you to capture meaningful insights that can help you map what the future opportunities might look like. So ultimately, it's less about, yes, we want to have NPS, we want to measure satisfaction, we're not removing the importance of those metrics, but we want to collect feedback that helps you understand what the experience is like and ultimately help you drive action. And so when we collect all of this feedback, I have on the left side here, all potential client signals from relationship feedback, service feedback, operational data, and so on. So this might be also like executive conversations and all of these sources of data you have about your customer experience. What you then want to do is organize this information into, I guess, 3 buckets that hopefully will align and deliver to different groups and different people in the organization, and align these in a way that will allow your teams to take action. And so the first one will be around the service intelligence. So that's basically trying to understand and help your frontline teams or service and delivery teams understand what needs attention in the day-to-day customer experience and customer service. So that could be, for example, project delivery or service being provided around ordering, delivering, billing. Like, again, I'm talking around servicing quite broadly here. But ultimately, the goal is to understand what is working well, where there is friction, and whether or not issues concentrate for example, in particular teams, customer groups, regions, or service areas, right? So that's the service intelligence. The second element, and given the value of B2B experience or the value of each one of your clients, the second element is around account intelligence. So being able to help your sale and account teams understand relationships that are at risk, understand retention, but also expansion opportunities. So this ultimately means giving your account teams visibility of customer feedback across the customer journey and not just a survey score. So again, service score helps a bit as a benchmark, but we want to go a little bit deeper beyond the score. The account teams should be able to see pain points by client where potentially confidence is dropping and which customers have a low NPS or CSAT metric, and which accounts need follow-up. And then the third element is what I call portfolio intelligence. So this is more of that strategic view of the customer experience understanding. Ultimately is to help your leaders understand like the broader themes across customer experience, and it should inform the strategic direction, marketing positioning, the business development, and so on. So if you are just capturing feedback and looking at the strategic level only, I think we are missing out the opportunity to really start embedding the feedback across the frontline teams and account teams. That's ultimately where the feedback starts moving from just a survey results to really being action-driven feedback. So once we have these in place, so we have different sources of data coming in, we're organizing the information, we then want to share this information with the with different parts of the organization. I kind of alluded to these already, but we want to encourage you to think about sharing feedback across the organization. Ultimately, different teams need different views of the same customer truth. And I like to think for B2B in 4 core buckets. The first one being your service and delivery teams. They need to know who needs a follow-up, what are the recurrent issues that need fixing. The second one being your account management teams, your sales team. They need insights that can help them shape client conversations, renewals, proposals, putting forwards, RFPs, and kind of use the language and addressing the concerns that we're seeing coming through. Your leaders, they will need visibility in terms of where to prioritize investment, what are the strategic priorities. But then also, and we have quite a few of you today that work on the marketing growth teams, your customer feedback program should help you and inform the positioning of your business based on what matters to clients and to the industry in general. So the growth teams do need that insight to help positioning, as well as business development, marketing messaging. So ultimately, the same insights, if structured well, can be used across the organization, but it does need to be packaged up for each one of the teams. So you do want to deliver insights that talk to the recipients of those insights. And then in terms of the activate, it's less about bringing and creating new forums around customer experience and more about how can we bring this feedback to the existing forums. So this slide is it's a little bit busy, but what I want to convey in here, I think, again, is trying to come up with a simple approach on how we can summarize what customers are telling us, decide what action needs to be taken, assign ownership, the action and the time frame, and then ultimately close the loop back to with your customers, your teams, and the leadership team. So this is really important in order to move from just collecting feedback to starting seeing an impact of customer experience in your organization, and then ultimately like bringing in these insights and these action plannings to the forums that already exists as a business. So that might be again as part of your service reviews, the account planning conversations, leadership executive meetings, but also bringing these to from a business development perspective. The business grow RFPs, make the insights available to the teams responding to and developing new business. So that's like in a nutshell a bit of the framework that I like to use and recommend my customers to think of. Listening broadly, there's different type of insights and sources of data that we can leverage to collect customer feedback, structure that feedback to deliver to the teams that are going to use it, and then leverage the existing forums to really drive action and accountability on in terms of improving customer experience. So ultimately, is customer experience is not just a survey. We want to give commercial visibility that you can act on. It should be able to help you protect revenue, win more tenders, grow opportunities across the organization, stay focused as well, reduce noise, and ultimately help improve relationships without too much extra work. I have just a couple more slides because I find that customer experience leaders always really like to, or I have the question around how do we show value of customer experience back to the business. It's a really tough question because it's less about like this whole program and running a survey and therefore this is the value. The best way to start measuring ROI and presenting ROI of customer experience back to the organization is doing it at kind of project level or insight level. So we encourage you to think about what are the customers telling us, is a particular area that we know we need to fix, what is the action we're taking to fix that area, what KPI can we put on to help us measure the improvement of that specific action. And these may be a CX or operational related or even financial revenue related KPI that then allows you to start measuring the value of ROI. And then kind of wrap it up then with giving you or encouraging you to start thinking about the business challenge and not just a survey. So where do you need to have better customer experience evidence? And from some customers or organizations here, it might be around service delivery, trying to understand where customers experience friction, where are issues repeating, and what needs to be fixing. For others, might be more focused around account growth and retention, which relationships need attention, how confidence is weakening, and what should we do to shape the next client conversation, or for example, how can we move from and inform the business development activities and positioning. Look, I guess ultimately I just want to share this as a bit as a framework, and if you get something away from today and you go back to your desk, start thinking about business value planning and how the customer experience program can help inform that business value planning, and then try to attach KPIs that will help you measure the impact of these activities back to the business, and then move just beyond NPS. I think there's a lot of value in trying to bring into your customer experience metric framework other metrics that may be more operational, financial, revenue related metrics. I think we might wrap it up. Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel, for joining us today. It's great to hear your story.
Always happy to help.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.